A U.S. Navy SEAL goes through some of the most brutal training in the world. They are specialized in direct action, reconnaissance, and high-level survival. They are trained to infiltrate enemy territory undetected and escape from the most impossible situations. But if you dropped one of them right into the middle of North Korea, could he really make it out alive? The moment the Navy SEAL opens his eyes, a freezing wind hits his face. He has no idea where he is or exactly how he got there, but as soon as he looks around, he realizes just how bad things are. He stands alone in the middle of a mountainous terrain that is pine-covered, rocky, steep, and blanketed in snow. He is wearing only military clothing suitable for freezing winter conditions. He quickly checks his pockets. All he has is a durable military knife, a small compass, a worn paper map, a small first aid kit with basic supplies, a plastic canteen with a few last sips of water inside, and a heavily damaged radio. He has no heavy weapons, no night vision goggles, no rations, and no satellite connection. For an ordinary person, this situation is a total nightmare, but he is a SEAL. Still, he has to accept that he doesn't have superpowers. Cold, hunger, and fatigue pose a vital threat to him as well. The first thing he needs to do is precisely determine where he is and build a clear plan of action in his mind. Taking cover behind a tall rock, he carefully unfolds his paper map to shield it from the freezing wind. Using his compass to take a bearing, he realizes he is deep in the interior of North Korea, in an impenetrable, steep mountainous area, completely far from civilian settlements. He examines the topographical markings on his map, observing the surrounding valley structures, riverbeds, and elevations. Now he has 3 different escape routes before him, and he must weigh each one with military discipline and all the risks it carries. Which path would you choose if you were him? The options are not as simple as they look. The first option is to head south toward the Korean demilitarized zone. Looking at the map, this seems like the shortest and most direct route. After all, the moment he reaches the south, he will step into South Korea and gain his freedom. But the situation is much worse than it appears. The DMZ is one of the most heavily guarded areas in the world, covered in minefields every single meter, surrounded by guard towers, thermal cameras, seismic sensors, and thousands of patrols. Even if you are a SEAL, crossing this line at night without a detailed minefield map is nearly impossible. Moreover, the military buildup along the borderline is so intense that even approaching it is direct suicide. He evaluates the success rate of this route with military estimates at between 1 and 3%. Therefore, he instantly wipes this option from his mind. The second option is an escape by sea. He considers reaching the Yellow Sea to the west or the Sea of Japan to the east. If he can reach the coast and find a small fishing boat or a military craft, he might have a chance to get into international waters. However, the sea route also carries massive risks. To reach the coast, he has to pass through dozens of military checkpoints and civilian settlements. The coastline is continuously scanned 24 hours a day with radar systems, patrol boats, and surveillance towers. If he can't find a usable boat, he can't even think about swimming to escape because the freezing water temperature and strong currents would cause hypothermia within a few minutes. Even if he finds a usable motorboat and fuel, his chance of success stays at around 5% at most. Useless without a boat, he keeps this plan in reserve and looks at the final option. The third and most reasonable option is to start a long and grueling trek north toward the Chinese border. This route is much longer and physically far more demanding than the other options. He has to cross hundreds of kilometers of mountainous terrain, snowy valleys, impenetrable canyons, and freezing rivers. Strategically, however, it is the most logical path. The Yalu or Tumen rivers running along the Chinese border are not completely sealed off, heavily mined, and fortified with impassable fortresses like the DMZ in the south. There is certainly security and surveillance at the border, but the military density is not at a lethal level like in the south. If he reaches the north by staying away from cities, main supply routes, and crowded settlements, and by following mountain trails and dense forested areas, he will have a chance to cross the border. The initial estimated success rate for this route is around 20%. The odds are still quite low, but it is much better than the other suicidal options. The SEAL wastes no time, makes his decision, adjusts his gear, and takes his first steps toward the north. At this exact point, military SERE training kicks in. This special training, which covers survival, evasion, resistance, and escape techniques, equips him with the skills to find his way, hide his tracks, and evade the enemy even in the harshest geographical conditions. Moving during the day is equivalent to getting caught, so he decides to advance only at night under the cover of darkness. He spends the daylight hours hiding under bushes, in rocky crevices, or in dense wooded areas, protecting himself from the wind and minimizing the risk of freezing. He plans every step in advance, makes no unnecessary movements, and uses his energy extremely sparingly. The local culture of citizens reporting strangers forces him into deep concealment. Otherwise, trying to advance unarmed in a freezing climate would cause him to freeze to death within a few hours or surrender to the first military patrol. Hiding among the trees, he patiently waits for guards to light cigarettes, get distracted, and for patrol shift intervals to pass. Analyzing every move of the enemy, the SEAL chooses the darkest and windiest moment to attack. Using close-quarters combat techniques, he finishes the job before his opponent even has the chance to scream. However, he knows very well that wasting time unarmed, without gear, and without rations in enemy territory is a fatal mistake. To speed up his escape and multiply his survival chances, his first task is to downsize his profile and steal equipment directly from the enemy. Right at the start of the second night, he spots a secluded and isolated military watch hut by the side of a mountain road. There are 2 soldiers guarding the outside of the hut. Utilizing the sound of the freezing wind and the cover of the blizzard in the dark, the SEAL glides through the bushes like a silent ghost. Approaching the rear soldier completely unnoticed, he takes him into a neck crank choke with a sudden move and neutralizes the guard instantly and silently. The moment the other soldier realizes what is happening and turns around, the SEAL knocks him to the ground with a hard elbow strike, knocking him completely unconscious. Without losing any time, he quickly puts on one of the soldier's local military uniforms, thick winter parka, boots, Type 68 rifle, full spare magazines, tactical chest rig, and the full ration bag from his belt. Now, thanks to the local military clothing on him, he looks directly like a North Korean patrol soldier when viewed from a distance or in the dark. This gives him incredible operational camouflage and movement advantages. He spots a 4x4 military off-road vehicle parked in the wooden hangar behind the hut. Taking the ignition key from the pocket of the neutralized soldier, he jumps into the vehicle. Instead of advancing on foot in the freezing snowy weather, he hits the main road in the military jeep, hits the gas, and starts speeding north toward the Chinese border. While speeding against the storm on the snowy and desolate asphalt road, he notices the fuel gauge on the Jeep's dashboard starting to drop. The tank is less than half full, and completing hundreds of kilometers of road with this vehicle is impossible. On top of that, after a while, the guards at the hut will be missed, and a military cordon will be set up across the entire region. Therefore, the SEAL veers off the main road and drives the vehicle into a deep valley bed to abandon it. To cover his tracks, he buries the vehicle under pine branches and snow, then transitions back to movement on foot. With the first light of morning, a red alert is declared in nearby units. Trained tracking dogs, search and rescue teams, and armored patrol vehicles are dispatched to the area. Checking the wind direction as he climbs toward the mountain ridge, the SEAL hears dog barks in the distance. He sprinkles the dried hot peppers from the ration bag and the sharp-smelling military chemicals he carries onto the trail he just crossed. When the tracking dogs reach this point, their sense of smell is temporarily paralyzed, and the tracking team loses time. To halt the pursuing patrols completely, he sets up a simple yet effective booby trap. He stretches a tripwire as thin as fishing line between two pine trees. He connects the defensive hand grenade he found next to the captured Type 68 rifle to the wire. Shortly after, the first patrol group scanning the trail gets caught in this trap. A loud explosion echoes through the mountains. While two enemy soldiers are put out of action, the remaining ones drop for cover out of fear of being ambushed and are forced to slow their pace drastically. This buys the SEAL at least 4 extra hours. He uses this time to cover continuous distance to the north. As the day progresses, hunger and severe caloric loss begin to strain his body. In weather dropping to -10 degrees, he needs high energy to maintain his body temperature. He consumes the military hardtack biscuits and canned meat from his bag. He meets his water needs by melting clean snow in his mouth. Advancing deep in the forest, he comes across a small woodcutter camp set up by locals. Making eye contact with civilians here would mean disaster. In North Korea, the public is obligated to report anyone they deem suspicious to the authorities, thanks to the military camouflage provided by the uniform he took from the hut. He continues to move quickly along the mountain ridge without exposing his tracks. Passing near civilians or settlements in these interior parts of North Korea is a massive risk. Therefore, the SEAL continues following steep forest lines, kilometers away from main roads and villages. The target is the Yalu River line separating North Korea and China. However, in winter conditions where temperatures drop down to -15 degrees, crossing this river by swimming or stepping into the water is a biological impossibility. In freezing water, hypothermia leads to muscle locking, loss of consciousness, and drowning within 2 to 3 minutes. Therefore, a Navy SEAL, rather than pushing the laws of physics and human biology, has to construct a completely strategic, equipment-focused, and tactical escape plan. After roughly 6 hours of continuous movement northward in the mountainous terrain, he reaches the expanding valley floor of the Yalu River. The river is not completely frozen. There is a fast-flowing, freezing water channel in the middle, but the shorelines are covered with a thick layer of ice. Positioned every 150 to 200 meters along the borderline are watchtowers, wide-angle searchlights, barbed wire obstacles, and border guards regularly patrolling the shore. The SEAL looks for a clever method to cross the river, where he will have no direct contact with the water and will reduce the risk of getting caught to zero. He spots a wooden log storage area 200 meters from the shore. There are massive logs harvested by the local administration waiting on the shore for river transport, along with abandoned maintenance huts. Infiltrating inside the hut, he quickly scans the tools and equipment there. Here he finds thick construction plastic sheeting, industrial steel tie wire, shovels, and abandoned heavy-duty vehicle inner tubes. A SEAL's field engineering training kicks in at this point. Taking advantage of the night darkness, he quickly inflates 3 massive truck inner tubes with an industrial hand pump. Placing durable wooden planks from the hut on top of these tubes, he builds an extremely solid, unsinkable, and balanced stealth raft using the steel tie wire. He covers the upper part of the raft with a matte green construction tarp that will not reflect light off the water. Now, one vital problem remains: bypassing the searchlights on the border towers and the border guards connected to each other by radio. For this, he plans a military distraction tactic, a deception operation. He uses the radio he stole from the hut during his movement and the last remaining explosive setup parts in his hands. He silently climbs 800 meters up the riverbed. He places the radio on a cliff near the tower there. By holding down the radio's talk button with a stone and an elastic band, he ensures it continuously broadcasts static and high-frequency noise. Right next to it, he sets up a delayed incendiary device he prepared by gathering the gunpowder from his last remaining ammunition. The time is 04:30 at night, the exact moment when the guard's attention is most distracted by fatigue and their biological rhythm is at its lowest. The delayed device triggers. Along with the sudden loud static coming from the radio, a bright explosion and fire break out on the cliff above. All searchlights on the border towers instantly lock onto the northeast sector where the explosion occurred. Border guards shout over their radios, get into vehicles, and are dispatched to the explosion site. The security focus of the border at that point is completely shattered. The SEAL does not miss this golden window of opportunity lasting a few minutes. Slipping his prepared raft quickly over the ice layer on the shore, he launches it into the flowing water of the freezing Yalu River. He lies down on the raft himself and covers himself with the mat tarp. Holding a piece of a wooden paddle, he protects himself from the water while starting to cross the river at a diagonal angle. As the raft drifts with the rhythm of the flowing water, it looks like an ordinary log or ice chunk floating down the river when viewed from a distance. Without even a single finger touching the water, and without experiencing hypothermia risk, he succeeds in crossing the freezing river line. After a tense paddle lasting about 8 minutes, the raft docks at the shallow and icy shore on the Chinese side. The SEAL quickly gets off the raft, and to leave no tracks or technological equipment behind, he punctures the raft's inner tubes with his knife, ties weights to them with rocks, and sinks them to the bottom of the water. He has set foot on Chinese soil. However, the escape is not over yet. The Chinese government directly repatriates defectors or border violators back to North Korea if captured. For the SEAL, getting caught here means being sent straight back to Pyongyang. Therefore, he has to advance into the interior while hiding from border patrols and thermal camera surveillance vehicles on the Chinese side. Stripping off the North Korean military uniform he is wearing, he remains in his civilian winter clothes underneath. Taking a final look at his map, he starts climbing on foot toward the nearest highway supply line. His goal is to secretly infiltrate the trailer of a logistics semi-truck heading into interior China, and from there reach the embassy of a friendly nation in the city of Shenyang, or a predetermined emergency safe house. In conclusion, for an ordinary person, this scenario is almost impossible, and the overall probability of a US Navy SEAL getting out alive from a closed and aggressive geography like North Korea without any external support is around 15% at most. You can click on the playlist on the screen for similar videos. Don't forget to share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for the continuation of high-action survival and military simulation content like this. See you in the next operation.